America and allies slapping more crushing sanctions on Russia aimed at crippling Vladimir Putin and his economy. The latest target is the country's central bank and limiting its ability to make financial transactions. Russia's currency, the ruble, has hit an all-time low, and its stock market is closed today after crashing. Europe, also very united. The EU is shutting down its airspace to Russian planes. It is also sending Ukraine military aid. So, Harold, is it possible that what Vladimir Putin is leading his country into is a North Korean future, where you're kind of, I mean, he's got no friends to play with anymore. He likes to travel. He can't travel. There's no sports team. You know, there's no World Cup. This is literally what, if you want to be the next North Korea, he just chose that path.
One thing the Russian people are going to probably have to decide in the near term, not the oligarchs, but the people who actually live in Russia, is how they want to live. Do you want to pay 2 times, 3 times, 4 times for things that you've already bought or things that you want to buy because the ruble is losing value and because your central bank can't borrow on the open markets? Do you want a country where your energy is crippled because you can't sell any and you can't turn on anything? For the first time, a generation of Europeans are understanding what it's like to live like their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents once told them that Europe was. So, I think at the end of the day, if Putin wants Ukraine or any nation in the Eastern Bloc to want to be like Russia, then do something that makes them want to be like Russia, not go in and invade them and put a hammer over their head. Our ideas are winning, and I think that bothers him more than anything. And what he's done could actually make our ideas win more amongst the Russian people than anything we could have done by attacking or spending more money. This may be a great boon for the ideas that independence and democracy are built on.
Yeah, the only thing I have to push back on, hashtags aren't the same as bombs, you know? Like that we do fall in love with the spirit of this thing, but they got the bombs. I mean, we were talking about it in the break. The Russians got a ton of stuff they aren't using yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of the Russian Air Force. When that comes in, it's going to be a different landscape down there. But I'm happy to see the Europeans wake up over the weekend. It looks like because Russia hadn't advanced as rapidly as expected on the capital, and they were on the phone with Zelensky, who said, yeah, you might not hear from me again. That kind of made him face reality. So these are tough sanctions. The SWIFT sanctions are strong. There is a little carve out for energy transactions, of course.
Yes.
And when the Germans decided to send weaponry and double their defense spending in 2 years, I was excited. And then I remembered what happens when the Germans ramp up military. So that gives people some flashbacks. So hopefully that can be balanced out there. The attacks against the oligarchs, who knows if that's even going to work? They're targeting their private jets. That seems to be good. And they're not going to let commercial aircraft fly over there. So I guess people are going to be eating at home for a while. The attacks against the central bank seem to be the most devastating. If you're holding Russian government debt right now, that's like a junk bond. That's done.
Worse.
That's worse than junk bond. That's goodbye. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but that's pretty strong. The food problem could be serious because the last time they couldn't export wheat, I think they had the Arab Spring because that's who purchases all the Russian and Ukrainian wheat. There was a famine and everybody went wild. So that's also something to look out for. If they respond to this, all these crippling sanctions with cyber, or I heard they could even cut our underwater cables that deal with our internet, that could get really crazy. Hopefully it doesn't escalate to that.
Even, Katie, even Switzerland.
I know.
Yeah.
Sanctioned Russia. And that, I mean, oligarchs have $11 billion. I guess dollars, not rubles. I think it's 11 billion. Let's how about this? 11 billion pounds.
Yes, something like that. Maybe gold bars.
Gold bars,
sitting in these Swiss
if they can't
banks.
get them, I mean, everything's connected. They're going to have to get rid of Putin if they want their money back.
You know that they've screwed up and that there's been an awakening when Switzerland and Sweden are getting involved, especially Switzerland with the banking and the sanctions on not wanting to make money off of what's going on. It's been interesting to look at this from the perspective of, for years, Russia's been used as a political point, right? Ukraine has been used as a corrupt playground for elites to go get rich, Hunter and Joe Biden included. And now it's all kind of coming home to roost when it comes to what's actually happening here. And Europe does seem to be waking up. You have Germany saying, of course, the 2% they're paying more. But it's interesting to look at the map as well and who's been paying more all along because they took the Russia threat seriously from the beginning. Poland always pays 2%, Croatia, Latvia, Estonia, Romania. And now you have Western European countries waking up and going, oh, okay, this is actually a real thing that we're going to have to deal with. And so you've seen Europe come together, and now you're seeing Finland wanting to join NATO. So you've seen this effort by Putin to limit NATO actually expanding, including Zelensky today signing that request to join the European Union. So we'll see where it goes, but it certainly has created unity among the Europeans, which we have not seen in a very long time.
Do you think, Judge, that Putin even? I mean, he acts irrational, but there's an irrational part to him that he saw this coming and he's ready to endure this like the bear he is.
You know, we'll talk about that a little later in the show, but one of the ironies that
Let's talk about it now, Judge.
No, I want to talk about one of the ironies. We will in the next block, and I'll ask you the question.
No, please don't.
But one of the ironies here is because Putin didn't go in and succeed as quickly as he did, he gave the West the opportunity to coalesce and even, as you say, to get Switzerland, Finland, everyone in the West is involved. And so his hesitation or his effort, whether it is because he's holding back, as some of us at the table feel, or, you know, because he thought he'd save the infrastructure, it is to our benefit and to his detriment. And now with these financial sanctions, the guy is in real trouble with his own people, in trouble with Ukrainians who have family in Russia. I mean, I'm not so sure the guy's got his game on right now. But for him to jump to, let's get a nuclear alert status, let's jump to that.
That's in the next segment,
That is in the next block,
yes.
but I thought I'd just tweak it a little.
It's called a tease.
Yes, it's called a
You
tease.
clever,
That's right.
clever judge.
Thank you very much.
All right. Up next, as Russia threatens nuclear war, new concerns, Vladimir Putin is mentally unhinged.